Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories. If you're new to my channel, I want you to be sure to subscribe now for future content. Make sure to leave your notifications on and click the bell so you don't miss out on a single one. Please send me any true scary stories that you would like to have featured on an upcoming video. My email is thesinfulsavant@gmail.com. I will include a link to my email in the description box below as well. Until we meet again, stay sinful. When I was 18, I house sat for my parents while they spent a week away. I passed out one night only to be woken up by a small figure breathing heavily, muttering and inching across my room towards my bed. I jumped up, ran past it while screaming and calling my parents and trying to get out of the house. It turns out that my parents had come home really late and didn't want to wake me. They brought my grandma, who's 82 and has Alzheimer's. She was terrified because she didn't recognize her surroundings and started looking for a way out of the house. She had ended up in my room, and I accidentally knocked her over when I freaked out. I lived way out in the country, like the turn off the paved road kind of country. I heard something crash on the roof and then smash into our metal chimney. For the next hour or so, I could hear it banging from inside the chimney, which should have been impossible since we had it covered for the summer. Then the front door started rattling as if someone was pulling on it, trying to get inside. I looked through the peephole but couldn't see anything. I finally threw open the door, then everything stopped and went quiet. Strange things have often happened in that house, but after that it got worse. I can't help but feel like I let something in. This happened shortly after I let it in. I woke up with a start in the middle of the night. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and noticed one of the stuffed monkeys I slept with was on the floor. No big deal, right? So what if I slept with stuffed animals? Don't judge. I got up, tossed it back onto the bed, and went to the bathroom. When I came back, it was standing on my bed. The monkey had floppy legs like a teddy bear. You know, the kind that didn't exactly support its own weight. After that, I had become intensely afraid of all stuffed monkeys. I probably had 20 or so, and maybe because I had a heightened sense of fear towards them already, I started noticing they were never in the same place I left them. When my parents got divorced and my mom, brother, and I moved out, I left them behind. My dad didn't like the painful reminder they were, so he started giving them to his friends' kids. I was home alone for one of the first few times in my life, and the stairs to the attic were always terrible for me. Just looking at them unnerved me sometimes. The thought of something possibly being up there waiting. So I was home alone, watching some television and not looking towards the stairs. Then the scratching started. The slightest hint of a noise coming from upstairs. Oh, it's nothing. My brain says at first. It's quiet enough that I could have just heard things, and there were gaps so it could easily be dismissed. Then it got louder, more persistent. Whatever was up there wanted out. It wanted to come downstairs. It wanted to get out. Now it was thumping against the door. No more time for scratching. There was an urgency in the noise from the attic. It needed to be released, and it needed to be free. Young me could no longer function past, "Oh my God, it's something's coming to get me," and I run to hide. My parents come home and I tell them about the horrible thing in the attic wanting to kill us all, and they go upstairs. It was our goddamn cat got stuck in the attic. Stupid cat. I'm in my parents' room with my sister watching a show. We heard noises from the garage. I pretend I didn't hear anything at first. We hear them again. I called my dad and asked if he was almost home, and he said no. I decided to close the door. The noises are getting louder and louder. I felt like I was in some horror movie type shit. Someone tries to open the door. My sister starts screaming and throwing pillows. All this time I was getting my staff. We were in karate at the time from under my parents' bed. I was getting ready to knock some shit up. It took us a few minutes to realize it was our dad. He wanted to see what we would do if someone tried breaking in. I think he just wanted to see me and my sister cry. I was about 8 at the time with a lively imagination. I wasn't exactly home alone. My older brother, who was 12, was taking care of me as my parents were out at a work function. It was getting late, so I went to bed. I used to sleep with the radio on when I was younger, and for some reason the radio station I listened to started with a very creepy advertising campaign. The ad would be 15 seconds of static interrupted by a creepy voice whispering, "Do not adjust your radio." It would go back to static again for another 15 seconds, and the creepy voice would come back on again. "Do not adjust your radio." The new 94.1 FM starts September 1st. Now just imagine being a small, easily frightened kid waking up in the middle of the night to static on the radio. I got up to turn off the radio, and as I was about to flip the switch to standby, the creepy voice comes on and tells me, "Do not adjust your radio." I ran back to my bed and hid under the covers. That was the scariest night ever. One evening back when I was in high school, my parents left me with the house for one evening. No biggie, I've been home alone at night plenty of times. So I'm watching TV until I decide to hit the sack. As I'm turning off the lights and making my way toward my room, I reach the hallway leading to both my room and my sister's. As soon as I hit the switch behind me to turn off the lights to the kitchen downstairs and turn back towards my bedroom, I see a shadow figure in front of me at the end of the hall, about 6 feet tall, which is my height. I'm staring at this in complete shock for about 3 or 4 seconds, and when I try to rub my eyes to see if I'm really seeing this, the figure darts off into my sister's room faster than any human could go. I felt like I was zapped and fell to my knees out of shock, briefly. I quickly got up and looked for my dog to make sure he was okay, and if he detected this. He was in my parents' bedroom, which is basically in the opposite corner of the house of where I had seen this figure, and his eyes looked at me with a worried look. So I shut the door, locked it, and barely slept in my parents' room that night. I know people have talked about seeing shadow figures before in paranormal investigations, and I know others say sometimes you just see things when you're tired, so I don't know for sure if I actually saw this. It looked real, so I suppose I do believe in paranormal stuff. I just simply don't have much evidence to prove it. I've never seen this figure again, although I may have caught a glimpse another time a few years later. I didn't want to take another look though. I just walked away from where I thought I saw it. I was in the basement playing computer games, probably RuneScape, and heard someone pull into the driveway. Naturally, I assumed it was my mother who was coming home from work. I heard the screen door open, but when no one opened the lock on the actual door, I thought I'd go upstairs to see what was going on. It was then when I saw a pair of legs walk by the basement window, which was situated about a foot above ground. I went upstairs and saw 2 dudes in my backyard looking at the windows and talking about how the door was locked. It was an attempted home robbery, and even though everything was locked, 10-year-old me was terrified. I was probably 16 at the time. I came home from softball practice and everyone else was at work, so I was at home alone with my dog. I was watching TV when I heard the basement door slam. We have a small basement apartment for my sister who was living with us at the time. It didn't strike as odd. I thought my sister had come home early. My dog ran downstairs, so I thought he went to greet her. Anyway, I went to the bathroom, and I noticed my sister never came upstairs to say hi. My dog was nowhere to be found. I looked outside to see my dog running up and down the block. I went downstairs to realize that the separate entrance into the house was wide open. Someone opened the basement door, heard that the television was on, heard my dog come down to find them, and ran out. Needless to say, I was scared shitless for some time until we got a security system. I was babysitting in the middle of nowhere up in the mountains on the coast. I remember it was 9 p.m. and the kids' parents would be getting home in an hour or so. I had put the kids to bed, so I was downstairs by myself watching TV. However, every so often the TV would flicker with static. To be honest, it was starting to scare the hell out of me. It wasn't until the point when I looked up from the TV and out by the nearby window I lost my shit. There wasn't actually anything outside, but it seemed if it was in the reflection. I saw what looked like the Tin Man, standing not too far from me behind the couch. Needless to say, there wasn't actually anything there when I snapped my head back around to look at the spot where it was standing. I grabbed all my things and wanted to get out of that house then and there. Instead, I ran upstairs and actually sat down quietly where the kids were sleeping until the parents got back home. For some reason, even though they were sleeping kids, being in the company of others calmed me a bit. I particularly remember when the parents came home and I had started to leave. I was pulling out of their driveway in my old Ford Laser, and I looked up into the kids' bedroom window. The same reflection I saw earlier was looking back down at me with a hand raised as if it was waving goodbye. I never babysat again. I'm female, and some houses nearby are also known meth labs. I live in a slightly rural spot. One night after about midnight, I hear banging on my door. I thought it was my boyfriend attempting a booty call, as he is apt to do. When I got to the door, I could see through the small glass window, but instead of my boyfriend, I saw the side of an unfamiliar bearded face. The man didn't see me, and I backed away from the door. My house was in a cellular dead zone, so I knew my cell was useless. I grabbed the landline next to my bed to call 911, but the line was dead. It was just like a horror movie, where the killer cuts the phone line. Meanwhile, the guy was still pounding away and slurring, "Let me in, let me in." I grabbed the biggest chef knife I own, which is pretty big, and locked myself in the bathroom. I stood on the edge of the tub behind the shower curtain, figuring I might have a chance if I jumped on him from above, stabbed him between the neck and shoulder when he tried to bust down the door. I was terrified, but also pleased with my plan, and waited. He started working his way around the outside of the house. I could hear him sliding his hands along the siding and banging his fist against the walls. For a split second, I reveled in my surprisingly badass plan. Then I realized the sabotaged phone hadn't been charged in days. Maybe one of the other handsets still worked. I've never felt more fear than the moment I climbed down from my hiding spot, unlocked the bathroom door, and went in search of a second handset, all while a madman was moving around the outside of my house, violently trying to unlock every door and window. I found a phone and it worked. I dialed 911, but the closest officer was over 15 minutes away. I was told to stay on the line, but locked myself in the bathroom again. That was the longest 15 minutes of my life. When the police arrived, they had me identify a cuffed, scruffy, drunk off his ass, dirty hippie kid. Apparently there had been a party down the road. He got disoriented and thought my house was his friend's house. He was trying to get back inside the party for 20 minutes of pure terror. Thank you guys for watching and listening to the end of this video. If you liked the video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe for future content. Email your stories to the email in the description box below. I would love to feature your stories on an upcoming video. Until we meet again, stay sinful.